Welcome back to Proof of DeSci. We're really excited for this episode because we're going to be diving into a challenge that touches every corner of science: reproducibility, transparency, and access to data. And joining us today are Daniel, Head of Competition, and Tim, the co-founder of First Approval. Welcome, guys. And they are going to be they are leading the Student Biological Data Competition 2025, a global initiative helping students publish and share open biological data sets, practice reproducible science, and gain visibility early in their careers. We're also joined by Morgan from ValiDAO, and we are going to be talking about the big picture of open science, why data sharing is key to progress, how the next generation of scientists can change the culture of science. And of course, we're going to be diving into details about the competition, how you can get involved. So let's get started, guys. And to kick things off, Daniel or Tim, why is open science such a big deal right now? What makes this moment different from the past?
Thank you. Thank you for invitation. And maybe I will start with a short description. My driver in the whole field is believe that science working. So is something that I rely on scientific outcomes. I believe that science would give us progress with new therapies, with new knowledge about universe. And all this is possible only because the scientific works inside its own methodology. So when we speak about open science or reproducibility crisis, this is something so basic that it is basic scientific methodology questions which highlight some existing problems with scientific process that threatens entire field of scientific research.
Brilliant. Thank you for this overview. And Daniel, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, if I can add something is that, well, just to bring you some context, I am not a researcher anymore. So Tim and Anastasia, the other co-founder, are still researchers and scientists. But I started my career studying biotechnology here in Mexico City. And I had this huge passion for science and for research. During my first experience as a student researcher, my main question, my first question was like, okay, so I need to have this lab notebook. I need to report everything that I do in the lab, every experiment, every single detail about all this big process. But how can I share this with the world? So what is the way to share all my notes, all my annotations, all my results with the world? And the answer was like, okay, yeah, but you need to publish first. And this is a very, very long process. And it was quite shocking to me, like to my naive mind at that moment. And I still think that it doesn't make any sense that we cannot share as scientists, like all the information that you generate in your research besides your results. Another factor is that you just share like the positive results, right? So there is no way to share in many cases, like all the efforts that you do by replicating other people's experiments, some parts of really valuable collaborations with other labs, and especially negative results. So I think that open science is very important right now because we definitely need a much more collaborative and transparent science in the world because, well, you all know that we're probably not in the best political times around the world, not just in the US or in Europe. And it's being more and more challenging for scientists to get funds, to get their research to the market, to start new companies, new startups. So I think that if we start sharing openly all the data and all the information generated in thousands of labs around the world, we can definitely accelerate scientific progress in the near future.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And just wanted to say both of you, it's a great place to start because I think, we always have these high level discussions about science and how things are working and how can we get more people benefiting from the work that people are doing. But, sometimes we even forget why we are interested in science. It's a very abstract concept that we have a number of different words and processes to talk about, but like fundamentally, why does anyone care about science? It's because we believe that this process can drive us forwards into a progressive society where we can solve many of the world challenges that we're currently faced with. So viewing it from that lens, it becomes apparent that it's all about the process. As Tim said, how do we make science a better process? It is astonishing, to be honest, to me, how much progress we've made with a system or a process that is so fundamentally flawed in so many ways. And I think it always gets the excuse for it. Science as a whole gets an excuse for it. Or like, okay, look at the world around us. Look at all the amazing things that we have as a direct result of science. And that is true. But we're less than 10% success rate at these things. We could have a lot more out there if we were doing it in the right way. And we can be doing it cheaper, faster, better. There's so many reasons and ways in which this process can be optimized from my perspective. And yeah, it's really great to hear that you guys are working on tackling this problem, and I'm excited to hear more about it, to be honest.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that was told. Just our idea why we start making first approval and the concept behind is that right now the situation in experimental science is some kind shifted publications only to peer review articles. So the process right now look like that scientists spend most of the time and resources to run all his experiments, to generate tons of data. And then he needs to pick up only few of best results and then somehow pack it into single story that he described in the scientific articles. And from that perspective, the article layer is something that scientists put 10%, 5% of time and efforts, but it represents the general time and efforts that he spent for scientific process. And we believe that it would be much more we can balance situation if we will add the data layer for all this scientific workflow. So if we somehow separate the article publication and the data publication in much more concrete way that it done today, we can achieve really interesting results, because data itself, well annotated data, could be used for creating different publications. Every data set has much more that could be described in one single article. Because if you look at, the easiest example is any kind of big data, where even scientists understand that genomic data could be interpreted in different ways. And that's why the Human Genome Project and all other transcriptomic and genomic projects, they make data open immediately, from starting point of these techniques. But even less and more smaller data sets, for example, in chemistry, it could be chromatography research. In biology, it is microscopy. Even small data sets like single Western blot or single electrophoresis results could be valuable if something specific will be will drive scientists to look at this data and reuse it. And from that perspective, we understand that we need to create some kind of data layer, data infrastructure, where it would be much more beneficial than now to specifically annotate and publish data set. And the great and interesting thing about it, that this is not broke the existing scientific process. We just add something additional which can help most of researchers doing their jobs and somehow rebalance the dominance of scientific articles as institution?
I've got a lot of a lot of questions on that, but I think just for like everybody else listening, it might be a good place to start. Like, what does good quality data look like? And what different kinds of data are there? I know you just elucidated to the difference between big data and small data sets, but Tim, Daniel, in your experience, what does good quality data look like, and how can scientists strive towards producing that before we even talk about sharing it?
Good data have really simple characteristics. So first of all, it's well produced data. So from methodological point, you make design of your experiment correct, and you can describe this design in details. And the second is just annotation. So the completeness of annotation. So you put as much information about your experiment as possible. You indicate all conditions, all groups. So it is like the second, and the best if you can upload both raw and processed data. Sometimes you get like raw files directly from device, and then you perform some kind of processing during analysis of this data. If you can combine both raw and processed data and put this together, it will be much better than you just upload, for example, raw or processed data individually.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess the next question from that would be, why do you think it's gone wrong so far? Obviously the whole publication.
Yeah. So
sorry,
no, please.
I lost connection there. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. So, do you think there's anything more to unpack about why we haven't had, better standardization framework for data production and sharing?
Yeah. First of all, I scientific institutions know about this problem, and they try to solve it by increase number of standards and requirements for scientists. But I believe the reality is that right now scientists don't have enough motivation to do all this process. So they if you individually speak with scientists, he sometimes will tell you, I'm ready to share data, but I'm not sure what I will get from this process. I was able to upload data and I did this, but make all this annotation is a lot of work and I don't have enough time to do it. But all the time when scientists say that they don't have enough time, it also means they don't have enough motivation, because they put a lot of efforts to make, for example, scientific article looks great just because they have motivation for it. Yeah, and they can spend a lot of time. So from that perspective, we try to build a first approval platform as the place where we specifically focus on bringing additional benefits for scientific data publishing. And we explore different type of approaches for this. For example, we are building now the system where scientists could curate the reuse of their data and get into collaborations with data users if they found the data is interesting and collaboration is interesting. So it could be one benefit, because collaborations and potential co-authorship in future articles is something that really drive the will to share data. But today we start with even more simple initiative that focus specifically on students, and bring the benefits for students to publish data that they produced. And this initiative is a student biological data competition, international contest dedicated to publish and share as much data as possible. Doesn't matter is it large data set or small data set. Every well annotated data will be published and get DOI and get a recognition from judges like professors from top universities across United States, Europe, and Asia. And we have $7.5 thousand in prize pool and 3 submissions. Daniel, maybe you can add something about competition because Daniel is lead of this competition and he can tell a lot about it in details.
Yeah. So regarding what you were mentioning, everything is related to how can we change the mindset of the next generation of scientists. So that is one of the goals behind this specific initiative. I was listening to the conversation you had with Jake Wintermute last week about iGEM. So yeah, I also started my the interesting part of my career by doing iGEM as a student, then as a judge, then as advisor, and then working with iGEM, with the iGEM Foundation for 5 years. And well, part of my conclusion, my personal conclusion is that we definitely need to work with the students because they are the future and they have the ideas that will change the world. But if we keep training them with the very, very obsolete structures of academic research that we have right now, we will just continue with the same problems and the same obstacles for science. So part of this competition is how can we change this? How can we empower students to really share their data, their results, their ideas? And yeah, this is part of the motivation.
Awesome, guys. I'm listening to the conversation and I agree with everything that's been said. And before we dive into the competition itself, I do have one question. So I fully agree and understand the concept of open science and making the data much more accessible. But don't you think that some scientists worry about sharing data a bit too early? So how do we balance the openness with protecting the credit and intellectual property?
You're absolutely right. It is one of the main concerns right now about sharing the data. And specifically in this competition, we do not push scientists to publish data as fast as possible. We even accept data sets that were already described in scientific articles, but which haven't been published as data sets yet. So, and another thing that if you accompany scientific journal publication with data publication, it is also not a problem because you can put information. So if you believe that your upcoming article will come out soon, you just will indicate in this upcoming article that this data set could be downloaded in this repository, first approval repository. You put, so every article right now has specific section which called data availability section. And you just indicate this in a data availability section of your article about your publication. And the interesting fact that scientific articles where data is available get even more citations. It was confirmed in different research, like open science research. And from that perspective, if you firstly participate in first approval student data competition, and then this information will be published in upcoming article, you probably even will increase your citation score. The last thing which I would like to mention that a lot of data simultaneously even don't published in articles at all. For example, replicative data, which just replicates experiments that have been previously described, and negative data where you try to replicate some experiment, but you get non-expected results. And it's difficult to say what's happening. Is it was some mistakes or just some difference in methodology. And this kind of negative and replicative data is regularly not published at all in our student biological data competition. We have even specific price for such kind of data sets. So yeah, the question right now that you can figure out which data set you ready to submit for a student data competition, you can conclude it with your PI, and definitely even students have some kind of data then they could share and get open access DOI publications.
Just to complement on that, I think you were also referring to what happens when you want to protect your research, probably with a patent or some other model of intellectual property, and that is a challenge. That is definitely a challenge, and I think the balance should be found on deciding what is the strategy for your research in the long term. And I think that is also part of the mindset that we need to change. And from a business perspective, if you share your data too early, you probably will lose the opportunity to receive a patent. And therefore, you're not losing, but you are risking your most important asset. So if you are looking to protect your research and to create a startup around that, I think this is something you need to consider. And we can, of course, check case by case in different fields. But I would say that for basic science, it's never too early to share your data. And for applied science, especially for those looking for going to the private pathway, I think it's just a matter of a strategy, defining what are you sharing with the world and what are you keeping to keep advancing or to keep moving with this applied research.
I think,
yeah, definitely it's a balance.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you think that maybe some of this could be also addressed by proper attribution? And what I mean by that is either through you guys' first approval or some other kind of initiative of having okay, if you share your data through this mechanism, you have some kind of legal claim to whatever is developed with it in the end, at the end of it, right? Because I feel like that would encourage people in the basic sciences also to share more, knowing that hey, those guys are obviously laser focused on fundamental research and not necessarily applying it. So why not let the applied scientists do what they do best, but knowing that you're going to have proper attribution, whether that's financial, legal, equity in the company, if a company is created or something like that. I'm just wondering if that maybe can help address the kind of public versus private concern, especially when it comes to IP.
Yeah, speaking from perspective of academia researchers, regularly main concern of them is not about financial issues, but about priority by itself, scientific priority for their funding, for their invention. Yeah, definitely. What we found and what we see that sharing high quality of data is promoting you by default. Yeah, so even if you're for scientific student competition, we try to make this publication process and licensing and everything as much common for scientific community as possible. We use standard publication open access license. We make open access the only thing that as participant you will know who downloaded your data set. You are interested. So it is some that we found also required by scientists. So the data is available for downloading after registration, and it would be publicly visible who downloaded your data. So it could be the indicator that these persons are interested in your particular research, and it could be the way to communicate and collaborate with them, even from your side. because data is much more valuable when you find people who are also interested in this data. So yeah, it is a lot of things that we can create in the data layer. So when we start think about it, we understand that it is the field that haven't been developed for years, but it's actually really big player, because for data generation it is spent more than $1 trillion per year, and from grant funding, from investments, and it definitely require multiple solutions to different players. Yeah. So we believe that development of this area will allow us to specify a lot of different conditions which will fit with the willings of data holders and data producers. So yeah, we just starting. This competition is first step to make data sharing beneficial, but it is first step. We believe we will have much, much more in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, makes sense.
Makes total sense. Okay, guys, can you tell us a little bit more about the Student Biological Data Competition 2025? What it is, who can join, why it matters? I know we've touched on this already. There's a pinned tweet in this Twitter Spaces. You guys can check it out. You can dive into details. But Daniel, could you give us an overview of who is it for? Highlights. I know we've already highlighted the kind of key the value of the competition itself already in this space, but maybe we can elaborate on that.
Sure. So this is a new global initiative. We're looking to invite students from all around the world to share their data generated in their research projects through the First Approval platform. And we have 3 categories. So we are inviting undergraduate students, and basically here I think that this is a good space or a good opportunity for them to share data generated in their thesis projects, in their iGEM projects, in summer internships. So all this information that they generate with these short-term projects and probably is never shared more than or beyond the thesis, the actual thesis or the book or whatever they generate to get their degree. That's the first category, the undergraduate. Then we have the master's category for those that are in a bit longer term projects during their master studies. And finally, we have the PhD track. So the amount of data, the quality of data is expected to be different, of course. We are expecting much more depth in the PhD and master's projects. And we expect the undergrads sometimes to be even their first experience publishing or sharing data. So all these students are competing to get monetary prizes. We have, as Tim already mentioned, we have $7,000 in prize for the best evaluated projects. We also have a interdisciplinary and international panel of judges that will be evaluating all the submissions based on the completeness of the annotation, on the quality of the data that they are sharing, and also considering the creativity, the innovation of the project. And yeah, we expect to have several winners in each category. We have 2 very interesting special prizes that are dedicated to the best project dedicated to replicate experiments. So we are also inviting students from the 3 categories to share these kind of data. And in my opinion, the most interesting one is the best negative results project, dedicated, of course, to the ones that are sharing all the things that failed or didn't go as expected during their projects. Yeah, we will have some judging criteria specific to decide who is the winner of each of these categories. Who should participate? Any student that wants to share their data with the world, of course. Any student that is starting their journey in the research world, and also any student that think that they have something important or that could be important for their research fields in the biological science.
Additionally, just to add, I would like to say that thank you, Daniel. Yeah, it's really great description. And we create this initiative specific to give to students opportunity to study new skills because they prepare specific publication, like data publication. And students regularly sometimes like work on conference papers, but for conference paper regularly it is like format way different from peer review articles. But for students, it is commonly really difficult to start writing full scientific article just because it requires a lot of new skills, new vision on the text creating skills, and scientific articles generally like kind of really big project and difficult. And here it is something in between because it is already scientific publication, but without this requirement to put like discussion section, result section, you just like describe the methodology and files itself. So it is could be considered as you like write the most easiest part from scientific article, but simultaneously you like prepare the background to make like to get skills for real scientific writing. So we believe that at least from that perspective, you can start and try to participate. And the helpful thing that like the data annotation is a much more standardized process than, for example, result description or discussion or even introduction section, because you can like go through other articles of your own laboratory or other laboratories that utilize these methods, and you just like get the vision how you need to describe your own research and experiment. It is in one hand, and in another hand you get the like responsibility to submit this article, to like process the work, and you will find that it is much more simple that it could be. Like what we found, that for researchers that has a good like laboratory like preparation for his experiment, so he have a lot of journal notes, he has his methods ready before he ran the experiment, it could require only several hours to submit the whole like publication for first approval competition. So in one hand, it like give you new skills, but in another hand, you can do it quite fast if you are well prepared.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what kinds of data sets or projects do you hope that students will contribute during this competition?
We are open for all types of data. So what is description of data set for our competition is the data outcome from like single experiment or multiple experiment with the same design. So you sometimes like several experiments to increase number of samples, and sometimes you just make a flow with a single experiment. So it is what is a minimum, like what is data set is according to our description. So for example, if you like make a microscopic search, so in other words, it is like what data behind single graph of the article, single illustration of the article, single like table in the article. Yeah. So if you can describe the data and upload files in details, that would be enough. Doesn't matter is it like big experiment or small one.
Brilliant, brilliant. Guys, go and check out the Student Biological Data Competition 2025. The tweet is pinned at the top of this Twitter Spaces. And also, anyone here in the audience, if you've got any questions, if there's anything that you want to ask Daniel, Tim, or maybe Morgan from ValiDAO, please feel free to request to speak and I'll let you in on stage. And just before I'm actually going to ask my final question, Morgan, would you like maybe to highlight, because there's another event coming up next week that ValiDAO's participated in and partnered with some great institutions. Maybe Morgan can share some more info.
Yeah, of course. So starting next Friday, we're going to be partners in I need to get the name correct. It's Bytes for Bytes. It's easier to read than it is to say because it's two different types of bytes. It's bytes with a Y, computer bytes for bytes, the kind that you put in your mouth. The idea is that it is an AI focused competition. So finding new ways to leverage AI to contribute to sustainable protein or alternative food sources. So this could be anything from like agri-tech, like food manufacturing R&D, like mouthfeel, flavor profiles. It could be more sustainable ways of synthesizing certain food ingredients and components. There's a huge scope for what can be addressed. I think it's fair to say that food is one of our priority issues facing mankind at the moment. And if it isn't enough of an issue now, it's going to be a bigger one in the future. So we should start investing time and energy into it. But basically, our involvement in that hackathon, it's in collaboration with the Bezos Center for Sustainable Protein and IX, which is Imperial's kind of AI. I don't know what they would call it, to be honest. It's like an AI wing of Imperial College London. So yeah, we're going to be providing access for all the participants to our platform Flow. We've actually even spent the last couple of weeks building something a bit more bespoke for them. So yeah, anyone that's partaking in that hackathon will get to try out some of the new features that we've been working on. And yeah, those features won't be kind of exclusively reserved for people in the hackathon. Obviously, if they are useful and valuable, we'll keep them on the platform for everybody that wants to use them in the future. Yeah, really excited about this one. Myself, Albert, and Anton will be in London next week. So if you are in London or the UK and you want to meet up with us, just send us a message because we'll be there most of next week.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Morgan, for that. And Daniel and Tim, my final question before we go into the final thoughts. What do you think? How can the broader DeSci community support and amplify initiatives like the Student Biological Data Competition 2025?
Thank you for this question. Yeah, first of all, I want to say that this competition is also the DeSci competition because we have two type of storage of data that students can choose during publication process. One option is regular cloud-based storage, and the second option is IPFS storage, which is like decentralized technology for data storage and access. And we all like DeSci guys, and we believe that in future we will implement like much more decentralized instrument to make this process like even more beneficial for participants. But right now we found that like scientific community is really aware and don't really understand the DeSci concept. Definitely there are some group of scientists who are fan of all decentralized technologies, but the majority of scientists just do not know anything about it. And with this competition, we try to slightly give opportunity to learn some basics of decentralized technologies. For example, what is IPFS storage and why it would be preferable to just regular cloud storage. And another thing that from every dataset publication, we create an archive of data and we share unique cryptographic hash inside this publication. So all participants will know something also about what is hash function and how we can create this hash function based on all files that they uploaded for the competition and which were used to create archive. So from that perspective, it is some kind of also learning about decentralized technologies. And we believe that decentralized community could be like big driver of this movement. Like we require a lot of different type of support to increase outreach for this competition mainly. So first of all, if you like have like your like community which includes scientists, you can share this information additionally and somehow invite scientists to participate. The other thing that we looking for partners and we open for decentralized projects become partners for our competition. And you can contact Daniel or me, Timothy Glinin, like specifically about these partnership opportunities. But we are open to promote as much decentralized projects as partners as possible. So yeah, we would be ready to start a thing together with all of you guys. What could be the next steps for our collaboration?
So I have an additional and very specific call to action. So you can share these with all the students that you know, but you can motivate or empower them to share their negative results. Like every single student around will have something to share around that. So I think that's the motivation, the extra motivation that we need. And also this is a factor to change this mindset on this next generation of scientists.
Amazing. And we hope that you guys are going to receive wonderful responses during the competition and a lot of great data sets and projects that are going to be joining. And yeah, we wish you obviously all the best here at Valley DAO. I think there's a lot of space and a lot of room for competitions like that to help make science more open and transparent. So that's fantastic. And guys, do you have any other final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
Actually, no. If anyone have question, we have maybe 1 minute to answer on one or two of them. So if not, okay.
Yeah, if anyone in the audience wants to jump in and ask some questions, guys, feel free to do so. I haven't seen anyone just yet. Morgan, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I don't actually. I think this was a lovely introduction to what you guys are working on, and maybe I didn't catch it myself, so apologies if I totally missed that. But when is the deadline and what are the dates?
Yeah, thank you for pointing this out. We right now have a lot of like active submitting persons in progress. So our first like deadline is September 15, just in 5 days. Potentially, this deadline will be prolonged for a much more longer period. Yeah, if you can submit your data in 5 days, it will be the best option. But if you are not sure that it will be enough to submit in 5 days, probably we will open like extended period for submissions. So you still can start uploading, but still, if you can do it before 15th of September, it will be the best strategy for you.
Okay, so you heard it here first. Time to get the rocket boosters engaged. If you're listening and this is something that you might be interested in, definitely go and submit some data because it's doing nothing on your hard drive and it never will.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic, guys. That's a wrap for today's Proof of DeSci. Huge thank you to Daniel and Tim for sharing their vision behind the Student Biological Data Competition 2025 and for reminding us why open, transparent, and reproducible science matters. If you're a student or know someone who should be part of this, check out this competition and get involved. It's a chance to publish, share, and make your mark early in your career. And to everyone who tuned in, thank you for being part of this conversation. Don't forget to follow our speakers, Daniel, Tim, First Approval, Morgan, and obviously Validal. Subscribe to Proof of DeSci podcast for updates on future episodes and more discussions about the future of science and DeSci. Until next time, guys, let's keep proving that DeSci works.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was great.